Hi, welcome back. I first want to thank you so much for your support in my last video. It was a lot of fun to hang out with you in the comments, which really made me looking forward to making this one. As I promised to do with all of my personal posts this year, I will dedicate this video to one of my patrons again. So I'm dedicating this video to Amanda. She's been a patron for ages and has probably collected all of my loot boxes that I send out through my Patreon. In my previous video, I asked you if I should go over the art materials that I'm using, and Christoph was one of the first to comment that he was interested in hearing what materials I'm using to make this illustration. So today I'm going to start by discussing art materials. I prefer to draw in circles because it looks to me like you're looking through a lens as if a fleeting moment was captured and frozen for a bit. I absolutely love this idea of stretching out time in a way while being in a moment where you feel this intense happiness. And I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but since I've told myself and promised myself to actually live in the flow of life, I catch myself having really intense happy feelings, even in really small moments. I'm using just a regular compass to create the circle. I have a cool pink one that I bought in a supermarket around 13 years ago, and I know it's pretty old, but I've always taken good care of it and it still does the job. For the sketch, I used a mechanical pencil. Now, this is not just a mechanical pencil. There's a story behind these pencils. So one time I was invited to go to Berlin for an event, and this was back in 2017 or so. And I don't know if you've ever been to Berlin, but there's a store called Modular there, and I read about it and I just had to go and find that store. I think it was like one of the biggest art stores in Berlin. There was just so much art stuff. I remember I bought this pencil and then also a tin pencil holder that got trapped in my luggage on the way back, and now it has a dent in it for the rest of its life that will remind me of the beauty of that art store, so it's kind of cool, and I also still use it to this day. Now, back in Belgium, I of course wanted to find another mechanical pencil like that to put red leads in. Funny thing is that I never use red leads anymore because they're just so fragile and easily break under the tiniest bit of pressure. Of course, I couldn't find this pencil anywhere nearby, so eventually I discovered that importing the pencil from the US was the cheapest option at the time, and that was including taxes and import fees. So I ended up buying a couple, and hopefully I will be able to use them for the rest of my career. I personally wouldn't go back to using another mechanical pencil because these just feel so authentic to me. And I know mine looks like it battled with my nails for years, which is absolutely the case, but it still does such a good job. They really feel like drawing with a regular pencil with the perks of a mechanical one. A mechanical pencil is a lot nicer for me to use because I like a steady line thickness and I really don't like sharpening constantly. I also like clean sketches, so that also adds to why I prefer mechanical pencils over regular ones. I have two sketch phases. The first one is my messy sketch phase and the second one is my clean sketch phase. For me, it helps to have the freedom to be messy at first and to then clean everything up afterwards. So after a first sketch, I erase the majority of the graphite with a kneading eraser, and then it would be like putting the first sketch at a 30% opacity when drawing digitally. I'm inking my illustrations with a Micron pen from Sakura. I use the smallest size that I know exists, which is size 005. It's super small, so mistakes are made easily, but I love fine lines, and I also just apparently like to torment myself with extreme anxiety for the duration of my inking process because finer lines make more mistakes or make mistakes more visible. And eventually you can still cover up a lot in the coloring stage as well as if you want, but not all of it. And as an artist, I do think that mistakes are just new opportunities, so I like to take the challenge. And I also think that traditional art is just awesome like that. You really get to that point where you go wherever it takes you, and I think that's also why I'm flowing in this process a lot more than I do when I draw digitally. To color in my illustrations, I use copic markers as a base layer. I absolutely swear by copic markers, even though I know that they aren't the cheapest on the market. The plus side of these markers on that matter is that they're also refillable. You can actually purchase the ink separately and refill the markers. And if you'd be interested in a video where I'm showing you this, do let me know in the comments. And also, if you don't know what to comment, you can always comment with an emoji. You're always free to spam my comments with cats or coffee emojis, because I love both. So the copic marker coloring stage is my first color layer. This is where I decide the mood of the scenery. And because that mood is quite important, I will usually first make a color composition beforehand to avoid picking the wrong colors. Because I do think that colors make or break an illustration. Each stage really is just scary in its own way when I think about it, but it helps to constantly take on the challenge and go through with each stage. I know that once the illustration is done, I will feel relieved and complete, and not because I'm happy that it's done. I'm always a bit sad when I finish a piece. It feels a bit bittersweet, like finishing a good book. That feeling where you hope that your next read is at least as good and you don't want to get disappointed. That's what I feel like after finishing an illustration. The last stage is reserved for my Polychromos. They're the set I dreamed of having in my first years as an artist. And actually even before that. They always seemed like a faraway dream. I also started with only 3 copic markers, by the way. I bought a light pink one, a light gray one, a darker gray one, and I also still use that shade of pink, by the way. It's still one of my favorite colors. It's the R20. I know it from the top of my head. Just in case also anyone would like to know. So when I eventually bought my set of Polychromos, it felt like a huge deal. Add the fact that I'm used to being very strict on myself and I'm only allowing myself things I really love every now and then. I always feel like I first need to really earn it before I get it, and then I wait a bit more to check if I still really want it. There's a whole process attached to it. I know it's not really healthy, but I'm also working on that. The reason why I'm adding Polychromos or colored pencils on top of my copic marker layer is because it adds a beautiful dimension and a lot more texture. There's a huge difference in saturation as well. These colored pencils, especially the Polychromos, are super pigmented and the colors are extremely vivid. In this illustration, I added some finishes with a white jelly roll. I haven't come across a better option to add white opaque bits to an illustration. I like jelly rolls, even though I wish they just rolled better. I just appreciate the opacity of these gel pens a lot, but that's about it. I used pens before that claimed to be white, but were really just transparent goo, and this one just doesn't really roll that good all the time, so I'm just going to take the latter. That was the final stage of the traditional process of my illustration. I later cleaned it up digitally, and I'm primarily using Photoshop for this. I scan it in high quality so it looks exactly like in my sketchbook, and then enhance the colors if needed so it resembles the original piece, and then eventually I will probably print it out on larger prints. I still don't know when I'll be putting these up for sale, but I still aim for somewhere in March. I do think I want to sell them as prints, but definitely not unlimited. I feel like I want to make them like a premium print with an authentic signature and a certificate of authenticity, and turn it into something special. I don't want to sell too much anymore, but when I do, I want to put my all into it. Before I end this video, I want to thank my amazing patrons who are the driving force behind my art. They're the ones allowing me to create my own personal work and share it with you, and I'm forever thankful for that. Let me know in the comments what you feel when you're looking at this illustration. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye!